Good morning, welcome to Board Game Barrister, our local game shop in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm Andy, and I'm here with Ian, Glenn, and Gordon, and today we're talking Project L from Boardcubator. It's a cool little game where you're using these shapes to finish these puzzles, and each puzzle you finish gets you more shapes, more points, all sorts of cool stuff. Let's get into it. Welcome to Project L, a super cool puzzly engine building game. Now when I say engine building game, this is kind of a catch-all term for any sort of game where the things you do early on in the game are all kind of an investment into the engine you'll have available to you later in the game. In the case of Project L, that means you're going to use your very small supply of pieces you have available to you at the beginning of the game, just these two little guys, to slowly build up your supply of pieces so that by the end of the game you're able to work on these really cool shapes and puzzles that you wouldn't be able to do early on. So to start the game, we're going to give each player one of these little player aid player boards, as well as their starting pool of pieces, which is exactly one level 1 square and one level 2 rectangle. Now each shape piece in this game has a different level assigned to it, as you'll see here, and once you start playing with them and interacting with them a little bit, you start to realize that the level is the same as the number of squares that make up that piece. The level of the pieces will matter a little bit later on. For the time being, we've got a level 1 and a level 2 to start. So on each player's turn, they get to take 3 actions. There are 5 possible actions, and you can do any 3 of those in any order, repeating any of them that you want to. Some of the most common ones you're going to find are going to be to take a puzzle and to play pieces onto those puzzles to try to complete them. So most people start their first turn with the take a puzzle action because you need puzzles to work on in order to finish puzzles, and you need to finish puzzles in order to get more pieces and eventually get points, so on and so forth. So let's take a look at the puzzles we have on the board here. We're always going to have 4 puzzles in each of these 2 rows. The row of white puzzles is the more straightforward, easy to complete puzzles. They're always worth fewer points, but they're also really good investments into your pool of pieces. The puzzles with the black backs are the tough ones. These are all going to be worth 3, 4, or 5 points for the most part. They're going to take a bunch of different pieces to complete in really interesting patterns, and most people don't start looking at picking those up until they have a pretty solid base of pieces in their pool. So let's start in the white row, shall we? We're going to start with this super straightforward puzzle and just add it to this slot on our player board. So that's our first puzzle. We can have a total of 4 puzzles going at once. Now that second action we talked about, play a piece, just means taking one piece that's currently available in your supply and placing it somewhere it fits into one of your puzzles. If that doesn't finish the puzzle, meaning there's still white space uncovered, then that's the end of the action. But let's say this player wanted to take the play a piece action a second time as their third action for the turn. That does finish the puzzle. Finishing a puzzle means you'll immediately get all the pieces back that you played onto it, and you will add this puzzle to your score pile. Now this particular puzzle does not have a number on it, which means it's not worth any points, but every puzzle in the game has a piece on it, and that means you earn that piece into your supply just for having finished that puzzle. So we'll put this in our victory pile here, and we have now got a level 3 piece. Let's talk about those third and fourth actions really quick. They're both very straightforward. One of them is to just take a level 1 piece into your supply. So if you need a square, you can have a square. And that fourth action is to upgrade one of the pieces in your supply. So you can choose any one piece from your supply, and you can turn it into a piece that is 1 level higher than its current one. And the fifth and final action is a big one, actually. It's called your master action for the turn. We're fast forwarding a tiny bit to talk about this one because it becomes most relevant once you have a decent supply of pieces and you have multiple puzzles you're working on at the same time. Your master action, which you're only allowed to do once per turn, and it still only costs you 1 action, allows you to place 1 piece on each of the puzzles you're currently working on. You have to have the pieces available in your supply, and you can choose to skip one of your puzzles if you want to, but if we took the master action now, we could do something like this, and this, whether or not that's a good play, and that would be the master action for the turn. And that's the bulk of the game. Once you know the main actions you're allowed to take, all of which are listed right here on your little player reference card, so it's super straightforward, you're just going to keep taking turns, finishing puzzles, scoring points, replacing the ones that get taken out of the middle, adding extra pieces to your supply, and trying to win it in the end. Now the game end is triggered as soon as this pile of black puzzles is empty. So as soon as somebody takes a puzzle such that we have to replace with the last one in this stack, that means the game's going to end at the end of this round. Each player is going to finish their turns so that everybody's had an even number of turns. And then we're going to go to finishing touches. And during finishing touches, each player at the table is allowed to keep playing as many pieces from their pool as they want to onto the puzzles they currently have in front of them, but there's a catch, and it's a big one. Each piece you choose to place on your puzzles to try to finish them costs you 1 point. So this player is very close to finishing this 3-pointer here. It's definitely worth it for them to use their finishing touches to finish this piece up. That costs them 1 of those 3 points, so this one's worth 2 in the end. Not bad. Whereas this other one, this is a little bit harder to justify. They can finish it, but it costs them all 4 points, so that one ends up at a net 0 in the end. When we're all done with finishing touches, we're all going to count up the scores on the puzzles in our score pile and then see who won it in the end. All right, so we played with 4 players today. 4 is the max. It goes all the way down to 1 because it's a game that's just super puzzly, and with 1 player you could just be completing puzzles using the same action economy to try to get as many points as possible in a certain amount of time. So it works really well all the way down to 1 and really well up to 4. The only one thing you're going to want to keep in mind is that with 4 players you're looking at a longer game. It was about an hour for us with 4 players. It was interesting because I was very clearly trailing the entire game, and I was pretty sure I was going to continue trailing. So the end actually felt like it came too soon for me, even though we were playing for an hour, and I was like, yeah, this feels like it's taking a while, but I'm not ready for this to end. I'm just getting started. So it was kind of cool that getting that cool pool of pieces that you've worked for and really want to start putting to use in these cool high point pieces made it so that I was like, but I'm just starting to get the thing. So I wanted it to go on longer, frankly.
I'll concur with that. I played one time prior to this in a 3-player game, and that's exactly how I felt. I'm like, this is great. I've got my things going. I'm making my pieces, doing my puzzles. What? No, I'm not ready to end this.
Yeah, I think with engine building games, it's always something that's great about them is you're always accomplishing small little dopamine tasks that let you then get rewarded for those during the gameplay. It's not all about that final, like, I spun my wheels for an hour and then I lost, and then you're like, dang, I never got my joy of winning, because the joy is building that little engine of, you know, collecting your little pieces and then doing more stuff with those and then getting another card and then doing this thing. And like, I felt really good about it. I started memeing halfway through the game and just picking only a certain shaped piece, the sticks, and it still worked fine. I was tied for second place at the end of it. I'm using straight sticks only. It's a straight stick playthrough. Not a single curved piece is being used today.
Straight stick speedrun.
I can't go for that one though, because it gives you a curved piece.
Interesting question.
Oh, it's straight piece run only.
You're right.
But I think that's a tribute to how they design how they design some of their puzzles too. That you can do any strategy and still be able to be competitive with it. Which normally I'm not big into the spatial puzzle type games, but this one I just waited till my turn came, and then I was like, all right, which ones were the right pieces? I'll get those ones, and then I was able to complete and have fun and score decently well. So.
And as a spatial game, this is a great educational game. If you are thinking about playing a game with older kids, this can really help them plot out how they want to see these shapes come together. I think about if you were doing tangram puzzles or working with other polyominoes, that's multi-sided Tetris piece type things. This is a great game to just get that part of your brain working over and over again. So even if you think that you're not good at it, just getting in that cycle and working more with this, and the dots really help with that, but it's not making it so easy for you that you aren't still growing your brain as you play.
Yeah, and the fact that it starts so simple and like establishes patterns first thing in the game, you put 3 dots in a row, you get a 3 dots in a row piece, and now you know how to use that piece. You've seen that pattern before. So there is, like, beyond just the mechanics of the gameplay, they put some really interesting, very subtle underlayers of training your brain into it.
Along with the subtle things they've done in this game to just make it awesome. The tiles have a little inset so that the pieces sit right in there. So as you're putting them into place, they just settle in. Very nice and subtle. The rule book is amazing, right? This isn't a hard game, but as we were playing, if we had a question on the rules, they were right there. It answered all the questions in clear language, exactly the place you'd want to see it. There was no need to interpret, as there all too often is in a rule book of, well, I think it means this. It was right there, it was super clear.
You got anything?
Gordon took thing I was going to say.
No.
All right, I think that does it for Project L. If you need a cool kind of thinky, puzzly game that's not going to take you 6 hours to play, we really suggest this one. We had a great time with it, and we hope you had fun watching. As always, hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see us play a new game every week, and check out our online store. Project L is in there. A bunch of other cool stuff's in there as well. Thanks so much for this week, and we'll see you next time.